All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to hop on, so give us about 5 more minutes and then we'll get started today. Okay, we have a good group with us now, so I think we're set to get the presentation started. So good afternoon, everyone, again, and thank you for joining us. My name is Grace Shallow, and I'm the Communications Specialist at Katz Pierz. Katz Pierz is a benefit advisory firm located in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and as part of our commitment to serving employers for the last 30-plus years, we wanted to bring you a presentation about ParetoHealth, a smarter benefit strategy for every employer on the call. Today we have Katz Pierz Principal Shay Cowan and Justin Sifra, the Vice President of ParetoHealth, co-hosting a presentation. And before we get into this exciting topic, just a few quick housekeeping items. In your GoToWebinar menu, there will be a drop-down option for a questions box. We encourage you to type any questions you may have into that box throughout the presentation, and we will leave time at the end for a Q&A. And a recording of this event will also be distributed after we get off the call. And with that, Shay, I think you're set to get started.
Okay, Grace, so can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Excuse me, come. Hey, Justin, first of all, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to join all of us here. I know that in our new world of COVID and webinars and seminars, things go by real quick and hard to get some time. So thank you very much. And thank you everybody for taking time out of your day for joining this. On the first screen, it says ParetoHealth, a smarter benefit strategy. You know, I wanted to actually say the smartest benefit strategy, and you're going to hear through my enthusiasm how excited we are here at Katz Pierz of a healthcare strategy. And it's hard to say excited in the world of insurance, because what's really exciting about insurance? But when we get in the same realm with you guys every day, fighting healthcare costs and having this trend just continue, when something like this comes along, and it really is different in the marketplace. It is something that we scream from the rooftops for you guys to really understand what's happening and what's going out there. So again, thank you for your time. A little commercial about Katz Pierz before we get into the Pareto side, just to give you an idea, some background. And Grace gave us a good little summary, and I wanted to also mention that we're a UBA firm. We're United Benefit Advisors. We partner with about 140 other firms of our size across the country. This is all pulled together for having some of the most elite independent brokerage firms come together to really share their insight, creativity, to deliver just great solutions for our employees. And it's been a great resource for us. So we are not just located here in Cherry Hill. We are actually all over the country and able to serve you from any location throughout the US. I did put 3 areas of focus with KP where we focus on, but you'll see the very first one, it talks about help employees become better consumers. And we want you to understand that we do support and help your employees. And then you're going to see the middle column that talks about, all the bullet points that we do to help improve administrative efficiency. Where I really want to concentrate on today is talking about improving the financial performance. And you'll see we have a lot of bullet points that talks about alternative, self-insured, level funded, benefit captive, benefit consortium, and it'll talk about all these buckets. And I believe that of every bullet point you see there, our best strategy is with ParetoHealth. Now, a lot of you deal every year with your premium. We know that healthcare is your second largest leading expense in a company. And we know for a company to run well that they have to be able to control expenses. I really pose this question back out to all of you. Have any of you taken your premiums that you're paying today and just forecasted out 10 years to see where you're going? This example is just showing that, hey, if you just took a 7% rate increase over the next 10 years, or even 12, and the reality of it is 12, we just know that we have to deviate our plans and water down our benefits to just get those increases down. But if you started $1 million today and you forecast that out over 10 years at 7%, you're at 13 million, almost 14 million. And at 12%, the number even gets more staggering. And so we just know this is not a sustainable path that we can be on. What can be done? How do we stop these trends? And what can an employer do? We laugh, we talk about things that keep us up at night. And if you're fully insured, surprise renewals, 90 days out, boom, you get a really big renewal, we have to react to it. A lot of times that 90 days isn't enough. It has to go out to market. We have to look at other carriers and other plans. We know when you're fully insured, we have lack of data. We know that when we have a really good year and we don't hear of anything catastrophic, we get no money back. We paid our premium and we're done. It's just a vicious, hard cycle, and I call it kicking the can down. And to me, to buy fully insured is just selling it, and it's not really teaching people how best to buy it. We go on, and we're seeing a lot of level funded plans out there. Cigna, UHC, Aetna, we're all offering these level funded where you pay a fully insured premium and we're tracking it. But still, we have to keep in mind, what's wrong with that model? In a very good year, they keep some of your surplus. So you don't get it all. You have to keep in mind that these carriers own the stop loss. They own the pharmacy benefit management, the administration. So it comes down to, at the end of the day, do you really trust somebody to be able to adjudicate all of your claims in your best interest, or is it in their best interest? Let me give you an example. Cigna, let's just throw out as a name. Well, what incentive does Cigna have to be able to make sure that they adjudicate your claims? The more that they can show goes through their auto adjudication process, the higher the renewal they can justify. The larger administrative fee they can give you, the larger stop loss, and reciprocal goes on. So we also become limited within plan designs. We just feel that solution, though it's a great step, is not the best solution out there. So any of you that's on the phone that's self-funded, one, I want to start off by commending you for making that leap and making that jump. I've been in the business now for over 30 years. I focus on self-insured. I think it's without a doubt a long-term strategy that has proven itself over and over and over. In fact, in 30 years of me selling self-insured groups, I've never had a fully insured group saying, this isn't working, I'm going back to fully insured. However, you'll see what keeps you up at night with being self-insured. Well, you might have heard the term lasers, which means that they can laser out high-risk people and put a higher responsibility for that employer to come up with premium on certain individuals. And that could be disturbing, especially if you have several lasers that could throw off the whole cost-effective strategy. It's no pooled risking, which means, okay, your group is standing on its own, regardless of your size. So we're looking at the premium collected for stop loss, and we are basing our risk off of that premium. You stand alone in the marketplace, and then in a bad risk year, that marketplace really turns their shoulders on you. They only want to look at you when claims are running well. So I do love self-insured. I do think it's right because you are able to get some data, but there's still some volatility there that can make any employer considering it or being in it a little bit nervous. Okay. So just to kind of reiterate some components of the self-insured basics. It's simple, and a lot of times people overcomplex it or overcomplicate it. So plan administration, we hire a third-party administrator. Reinsurance provides the insurance portion of a self-insured plan. We go out, we find the right provider network, be it Aetna, Cigna, the Blues, whoever it may be. Pharmacy benefit manager, we will go out, we make sure that we get a pharmacy benefit contract that actually meets the terms in the employer's favor. It's a key word, employer's favor. Under level funded or fully insured, when we talked about that before, when they're getting a pharmacy benefit manager, they own it, and generally the terms are in favor of the carrier that's running that. We put together a plan document. We talk about some cost containment strategies based off the data that we're receiving, and off we go. Now you'll see a box that I have in the corner that talks about the executive commitment to a long-term solution. This is really important because we know that we don't jump into a self-insured basic owner 1 year. We're looking at it from a multi-year strategy. We are looking at it to be able to get that data, to have the executive committee commit to being able to look under the hood to see how the plan is performing so we can best manage it in years ahead. So it is definitely an all-on, this is a concept, we get it, let's go. And if we get the executive commitment to it, we realize that we are on a good path for a good solution. So just a little bit about what is the insurance part of a self-insured plan. I like to say there's the specific, and then I call it the umbrella. So you'll see specific is going to be able to insure each individual for any catastrophic claims, your cancers, your transplants, your hearts, whatever it may be. And then aggregate, well, what happens if we don't have really large claims, but we just have a lot of people that have a lot of claims? Think of this as an umbrella over the group. It protects you on a monthly basis to know that you can't just shell out tons of money on a given month that everyone decides to go to the hospital that month. And then it draws a line in the sand at the end of the year, knowing that, okay, this is my aggregate max. So forget about individuals that might be sick, but as a company, what is the most I can spend? So they're the two areas of stop loss coverage that protects an employer from a self-funded side. So let me jump over to why captives have been the solution. I mentioned earlier that I've been doing this for 30 years, self-insured. Captives have been around for well over 10 years, and captives have knocked on our door for many, many years. We never were really brought on board with a captive solution because it was always putting a square peg in a round hole. And what I mean by that is the captive was owned by a carrier. They told us the networks we had to use, the plan designs that we needed, and it just didn't fit for us. So when we talk about all captives aren't alike, our job here at Katz Pierz is to go out and evaluate all the captives that are out there. And what we've noticed is there's been a bunch more that have popped up. A lot of them are dividend producing. A lot of them are trying to get employers in to be able to have some refund back to the company. Well, to us, when we did the whole evaluation, the one captive that stood out was ParetoHealth. And this was 8 years ago. And the reason why is it's owned by the employers that join the plan. Two, they gave us the flexibility to design what was right for our clients, meaning the right administrator, the right network, under the right price. And ParetoHealth isn't about returning a dividend. ParetoHealth is saying, let's give you the best rates today and all of the data to be able to support your decision-making going forward. So before I keep going on and probably steal some of Justin's thunder here, I want to bring Justin on to talk a little bit about what's going on in the healthcare world and how Pareto is handling it and their approach. And at the end, when he's done, I'll come back and wrap everything up to kind of summarize again why we've partnered with ParetoHealth. So with that, Justin, I'd like to bring you on, and I don't know if you can take over here now.
I will do my best to take over. Let's see if I can do this.
Got it.
Let's see if I can expand it. How's that looking?
Good.
Well, Shay, first and foremost, thanks for having me. As hopefully you can tell, Pareto and Katz Pierz shares a very, very close partnership, as it is both of our goals to help mid-sized employers really wrap their arms around this expense that is for most growing out of control. And so when you look at Pareto, and before we start talking about drivers of healthcare, it's just really important to boil down what our mission here is at ParetoHealth. And the first part of the mission is reducing volatility. It doesn't matter if you're fully insured, level funded, self-insured. Shay went through all the different risk financing vehicles that are out there today. It's extremely volatile. And so the goal is to make for a mid-sized employer, make self-insuring palatable. Shay went through all of the pros on why he tries to get his members, his employers, to become self-insured so that they can have the benefits of being self-insured. Because when you think about it, most large employers, large being 1,000 enrolled or more, are self-insured. And so really it's the haves and the have-nots. And so our focus is to make self-insuring palatable to the have-nots, the people that have felt as though they were too small to self-insure on their own. This volatility exists again outside of or regardless of the risk financing vehicle. And so let's see what the drivers are. And you look at the drivers of the health care today. Now, again, very different than health insurance, but your health care, which makes up the large majority of your spend, there's some things going on in the space. One, you're seeing big entities buy each other. CVS bought Aetna for $70 billion. Cigna bought Express Scripts for $54 billion. You're seeing United Healthcare follow the suit of some Blues entities by buying up physician practices. And we're certainly seeing in the local marketplace continued hospital consolidation. I'm not suggesting, and nor do I want you to think that I believe that these companies are bad companies. I'm just pointing out with trends in the industry, the fewer players that there are, it's really their attempt to capture control of membership, where people go to get their prescriptions filled. Who's controlling the pharmacy spend, as that is the probably exploding more than any other side of the healthcare expenditure. And so we have to pay attention to the continued vertical integration that's happening on a national marketplace, but also in our local marketplaces. We're also seeing incredible innovation that's causing costs to rise. And we're talking about truly innovative procedures as well as drug entities. So you're seeing specialty drugs. There's about 500 compounds today in front of the FDA that are labeled as specialty drugs. When it's labeled as specialty drugs, you're probably not surprised to hear that it comes with pretty big acquisition costs. Last year, every single oncology drug that hit the marketplace labeled as specialty carried with it an acquisition price of over $100,000. You're also seeing incredible innovation in gene therapy. We always used to say it's coming, it's not coming, it's here. One of our captive members was hit with the world's most expensive drug, $2.1 million drug, happened to one of our employers in Indiana. A baby was born with spinal muscle atrophy, and there's incredible innovation that can help that baby, but it costs $2.1 million. And that's okay. That's why a continued thing is going to be just size and scale matters. which is why and what differentiates Pareto from the other captive managers that are out there in today's marketplace. We're also seeing something occur. Severity and duration of large claimants, they're getting big and they're happening more frequently. And so let's talk about this a little bit. When you look at duration of claims and you think about the claims that go through your plan, there's things that are episodic. So knee replacements, colonoscopies, those get scheduled and the service gets rendered typically well within a 12-month policy period. The difficulty is that when you do have some cancer claims or organ transplants, specialty drugs, hemophilia, multiple sclerosis, the big claims that keep you up at night, you're seeing those claims spill into subsequent policy periods. And so how does the insurance world handle those large claims? Well, if you're fully insured and those claims rear their head, you're going to be told about it at renewal, and you're probably going to get kicked in the teeth with a big premium increase. You probably have gone through that in the last couple of years. If you're self-insured, you're still not addressing any reduction of volatility because, as Shay talked to you about, they reserve the right to laser large claimants at renewal or just give you a big premium increase to your stop loss premiums. And so really what these companies are continuing to do is really hold you accountable to how they've conditioned all of us to purchase insurance, which is through a faulty 12-month outlook. So what the captive is actually doing, and I'm going to spend a lot of time, and you're probably going to get tired of hearing me saying that, what the captive is really doing in essence is providing you better security. We're solving for the 13th month that the fully insured world refuses to address and the stop loss marketplace refuses to address. They continue to tell you that your risk changes every 12 months and they have the ability to reassess it. We know, because we represent a community of mid-sized employers, that that is something you don't want. You're not closing your doors in 12 months. So why go and seek out the cheapest 12-month option? Let's look for the best option that provides the most efficiencies for the duration and longevity of your business entity. When you look at healthcare companies today, again, I'm not picking on them. I just want to show that there's misalignment. We started keeping tracks when ACA, when it was enacted, of these privately held insurance companies and how ACA affected them. They said that they were going to struggle. The stock performance would suggest otherwise. Anthem up 330%, Cigna up 450%, Aetna up 481, Humana up 600, and United, mostly driven by their pharmaceutical arm Optum, is up over 700%. Purely showing here, with all due respect to these companies, that ultimately they answer to who? Not their policyholders, to their shareholders. And so if I was to take your premium over the last 10 years and plot it like we've plotted the stock performance, I guarantee you that your premiums would look very similar, that they've escalated at the same rate as this, meaning it's a zero-sum game. They're winning on the account of employers, their policyholders losing in direct proportions. And so it's important to look past 12 months. It's important to look at where the future outlook of your healthcare premiums are going. As Shay mentioned, it's probably number 2 or 3 on your balance sheet. It's the only one that you have zero control over. And when you apply trend like he did early on in his presentation, whether it's 7 or 9%, as innocuous as it may seem, for a lot of our members, it was outpacing revenue growth. And for a lot of our members, they came to the realization it wasn't sustainable, because when you look at those 9-7% increases on $1 million spend today, receiving a 9% increase lands you at 10-year costs being $15 million. So crazy idea. How about if I give all of you $15 million today and tell you that it has to last 10 years? That's the data, that's the control that Shay's talking about, that self-insured employers have the ability to do. When you have data and you understand that on a fully insured world where you have no control, this is the future. But when you self-insure, you don't have to spend $15 million. It's about understanding how your employees procure care, understanding what chronic conditions they have, and structuring a plan design that will allow them to curb those costs over time where it fits your culture. When you look at how this is affecting employers, that's one part of the conversation. But when you look at what our HR professionals deal with, it's really talking and having conversations with how it affects your employees. I borrowed this slide, and so what it's showing is average employee premium and deductible contributions back in 2008, for most part across the country, was less than 10% of household income. So this is back in 2008. You can see down in the South, there are some states that eclipse that 10% threshold. Let's fast forward this 10 years. So now we're looking in 2018. They're looking at average employee premium and deductible contributions again, exceeding 10%. Virtually every state has eclipsed 10%, and we have some that are over 15%. And so we talk about how this impacts the employer over a 5-10 year time period. And certainly it devalues in an entity, an employer. But I'm also here to point out the obvious, that it devalues households, that it becomes a contentious relationship every single year. Your employee plan participant flips to the contribution page at the end of the open enrollment paperwork, and that's all they look at. And so what we're trying to do is really help you answer why all large employers self-insure. It's because there's better control and it's a more efficient way to pay for your healthcare expenditures. As Shay mentioned, you do reduce costs. There is improved cash flow. There is lower trend because you're stripping out carrier profits, lower taxes, and administration tends to be lower on a self-insured chassis. And so if trend is 9%, let's use 6. But once you have data and it's actionable data, you have the control to manage your expense moving forward. And so ParetoHealth, we structure and manage these little captives, these little insurance companies, probably fulfilling a lifelong dream of yours to become an equity owner of an insurance company. I'm sure you guys are, laughing. That's never on a bucket list, never will be on one. But the reason you do that is to combat both the insurance industry as well as the healthcare industry. You need size and scale. So this mechanism of becoming an equity owner gives you the ability to join forces with other like-minded employers who are also frustrated with the rising cost of healthcare. The captives, again, are owned by you, controlled, but the day-to-day operations of running the insurance company are ceded to ParetoHealth. That's who we are. We are an independent captive manager that's free to move the program from one stop-loss carrier to another if we can find better deals in the marketplace on behalf of our members. Size and scale is important, so I'm going to spend some time. We call this our proud peacock slide. But we opened our doors in 2011. Katz Pierz was there with us from the beginning. We wrote our first captive member 2012. And as you can see, we've had extraordinary growth. We have close to 1,500 individual employers within the 5 captives that we manage. And through this growth, we've maintained a 97% renewal ratio. By far our most proud statistic, as there's no barriers to leave the program. There's no contractual obligation that you're going to be a part of ParetoHealth for any set period of time. We write very mature stop-loss contracts that give you the ability to go back to the fully insured world if you felt as though coming into the self-insured world through the captive was a mistake. And also the capital, which is your investment to become an equity owner, gets returned to you provided it hasn't been used. And so insanely proud that 97% of the members that have come into the program are still with us. That is a tribute to them, the employers themselves, for getting their executive leadership team on board to say this is the long-term strategy we're going to go down. But it's also absolutely says a lot about our chosen consultant partners like Katz Pierz that are doing a good job properly transitioning you from the fully insured world to the self-insured world. Not all brokers can do that. You need a savvy self-insured expert that can make that transition smooth, easy, to limit disruption to your plan participants, dependents, etc. So back from 2011, again, we opened our doors. Now we have over $500 million of stop-loss premium. The narrative there is that there's no shortage of frustrated employers, perhaps like you, looking for a better way to finance the risk. And so people are gravitated to us based upon us being able to answer what is infuriating most employers in today's marketplace from both an insurance standpoint, but from a healthcare standpoint. The average size has crept up on one of our members. It's now 145 enrolled. That's because we've seen a steady influx of folks who are already self-insured, already doing the right thing, but they recognize there is more exposure, unnecessary exposure, by purchasing a traditional stop loss contract versus entering into the captive where you're protected by no new lasers for membership duration and a 30% rate cap. Let's talk about that. If you receive a 30% increase to your fully insured spend or your level funded spend, and you're spending $1 million today, that 30% increase is going to land you at 1.3. Math's pretty easy. When you're self-insured and you're buying the catastrophic protection that Shay talked about, both the specific and aggregate coverage that he walked you through, it makes up 20-30% of your overall spend. And so if you were to have a terrible year and get a 30% increase, the expectation is a 6 to 9% increase of your fixed cost. Again, more efficient way to handle your rough years, which is again why large employers, the haves, continue to go down the path of self-insuring, paying for their own claims. When you look at this group, this pool, it's important to know that as an individual employer within the pool, you're always paying stop loss premium that's commensurate with your risk and your risk alone. It's a common misperception that it's like socialism, that everyone's paying the same amount. While the risk, the stop loss premium, is shared each and every year on entrance as well as renewal, you as a member and employer are always going to be contributing stop loss premium that's commensurate with your risk. And so we look at your demographics, we look at who your administrator is, what your plan design looks like, who your PBM is, we look at your specific deductible, and we assign stop loss accordingly. So I know this looks like a blue rectangle, but we're going to use the metaphor that we always use, which is an orange Home Depot bucket. And we're located here in Center City, Philadelphia. It's the thousands of members all come to Philadelphia, obviously a metaphor, but they're dropping stop loss into that bucket, probably running the Rocky Steps and grabbing a cheesesteak. They go off to run their manufacturing firm, their doctor's office, their car dealership, etc. And when they have a claim that breaches their specific deductible, they give us a call. We reach our hand into this Home Depot bucket that's been filled with stop loss premium, and we reach our hand in and we satisfy the claim. So if somebody has a $50,000 specific deductible and on their plan they have a $120,000 double hip replacement, they're going to be responsible for the first $50,000, and then they're going to call us up and we're going to send them $70,000. Again, a metaphor. But at the end of the year, we look into that Home Depot bucket that's been filled with stop loss premium, and we look into that bucket. And if stop loss premium is still there, what we do is we send it back to the members. They are the owners of the insurance company, the captive, and so you would receive a pro rata share based upon the stop loss premium that's left in the bucket. The flip side is, at the end of the year, we look into that bucket of money, stop loss premium is gone, and claims are still flowing. That's the purpose of capital. All it is reserves. The captive is a living, breathing insurance company domiciled out of the state of Tennessee, regulated by the Department of Insurance there. And so as an insurance company, you need money sitting on the sidelines. For the very example I just provided, we missed the mark in stop loss premium versus claims. That is the only example that capital could ever be utilized. That we look into the bucket of money, stop loss is gone, claims are still flowing. We would dip into the capital account that's in your name and take out money, also on a pro rata basis. It's a granular conversation, but it's important for you to understand that this is what needs to happen for you to get transparency, for you to flip a faulty standalone product to a pooled product, that being stop loss, so that you can enjoy the best stop loss policy in the marketplace and also become a part of the cleanest risk pool that exists of any risk pools across the country. Because like you are always paying your own smaller claims, regardless of the risk financing vehicle, it doesn't matter the risk financing vehicle, you're always with a pool of other people. The ParetoHealth community, Katz, Pierz, their members, and our members, it is a community of folks that are rolling up their sleeves and getting engaged based upon the guidance that Katz, Pierz is delivering to their members. Every other consultant in the program is doing the same. And as we together attack claims, the risk pool becomes cleaner and cleaner. As such, volatility is reduced. So we're taking out the bumpiness that a standalone employer has, regardless of the risk financing vehicle. The captive, being means to an end, smooths it out so that you can treat insurance with what it is, this nice little package distraction that keeps you from paying attention to what the most expensive part of this spend is, your healthcare claims. When you look at the renewal methodology within the program, it further shows reduction of volatility, which is what small, mid-sized employers want. If you look at this graph, we're showing that in the traditional marketplace, claims are all over the place. If you're running well, you could get a 0. If you're running poorly, you can get a 75. And obviously, this is just a fit on a graph. If you're running extremely well in the stop loss world, you can get a negative number. If you're running poorly, you can get 100, 200% increase. But for the purpose of how the captive works, its renewals, I wanted to just put this on one clean little graph. We make the promise to our members that we're going to cap, in the worst case, when they have bad claims, 30%. Doesn't mean anything above 30% goes away. The captive is a zero-sum game, so those claims have to go somewhere. Where do they go? They get overlaid over the rest of the members of the program. And why does this work? It works because every member of the program takes turns having bad years versus good years. And so when you are running well, could you go out to the stop loss marketplace and get cheap stop loss terms? Absolutely. But our members don't go, and our consultants tell them why they shouldn't go, is because while they're running well this year, they may be 12 months away from running awful, and that would expose them again to what we talked about, the lasers, huge premium increases. And so our members understand that, you know what, I am willing to pay that small surplus to protect me when I'm running awful. And so that's how our renewal methodology works. And I think it's important to go through because it further shows how we're able to, in a transparent way, continue to reduce volatility that a small, mid-sized employer has. That insurance part is the easy part. Mission part A, making self-insuring palatable. Through size and scale, we've achieved that. The difficult part and the heavy lifting, and one of the reasons why I love working with the team at Katz Pierz, is that together we are all passionate about this, reducing your actual cost of healthcare. When you're looking to reduce cost of healthcare, you have to understand, again, what we talked about, what the main drivers are, but what are the fundamental issues with healthcare today? And you don't have to look any further than primary care. It's a problem. Primary care physicians, it used to be more of a holistic approach, used to be root cause, why is this disease state manifesting itself? This dynamic, that role has changed dramatically. You look today at who owns primary care practices, the majority of primary care practices are now owned by someone other than the practitioner themselves, meaning insurance companies as well as hospital systems have swooped in and purchased primary care. Why does that matter? Why should you be cognizant of that? It's because if your plan participant goes to a hospital-owned primary care physician and they need an MRI of their right shoulder, you better believe hospital-owned primary care physician is going to refer them to hospital-owned imaging center where the MRI is going to cost $1,500 versus an independent MRI center down the street where that MRI, same machine, would be $500. And so let's look at what today's healthcare delivery system is and why your costs are going up. It's because it's set up very easy pathways for your plan participants to end up at very, very expensive care. And I would tell you that because they're arriving at expensive care, there's no guarantee expensive care comes with high quality. If anything, it's an inverse relationship, most studies show. And I'll get into that in just a little bit. But what it is set up is this vicious cycle where employees are procuring care as they think that they should, right? They go to a primary care physician, but the experience kind of stinks. Takes 3 to 4 weeks to get an appointment. You sit in the waiting room for, an hour. You go back to the examination room, sit another 10, 15 minutes, and a doctor who most likely never met before pokes his or her head in. And so where are people going? You see it on your plans. You're going to urgent care facilities, also owned by hospitals. They're going to emergency rooms, which is the worst case scenario. But people are procuring care as they should, but as a society, we're underspending on primary care. It leads to overspending on RX and hospitalizations, which is the more expensive side of healthcare. So we shouldn't be surprised that costs are going up pretty rapidly each and every year. What we have to do collectively is be cognizant that we've been conditioned to handle this one and only one way, which is mitigate the increase, the $1 million going to $1.3 million by shifting costs to the employee, raising copays, raising deductibles, because all that does is perpetuate this cycle. we need as a community to understand that every extra dollar we spend on primary care strips $2 to $3 out of RX and hospitalization. So let's go that path to break the cycle, because this has led us to really an unsustained approach for this expense. We jokingly refer to this internally here at Pareto Health as the Measles Slide. And I just want you to think of that open enrollment, right? You hand them an ID card, it has a great brand on it, and you've been told that that brand carries with it a robust network and the best-in-class discounts. And I'm here to tell you that with data, I can tell you that that is a faulty, naive outlook, because we've done this for decades and it hasn't lowered your costs. So in essence, what you do is you hand them this ID card. It's the same exact size as a credit card, but it has an unlimited spending limit. And so when you look at data to support my soapbox statement here, this is the data borrowed by our captive members back in 2019. So when you look at the procedures, drugs, so we're looking at emergency rooms, physical therapies, the count. So there's 25,000 visits to the emergency room across our captives, physical therapy, about 12,000 visits, etc. When you look at what people paid, again, this isn't factoring quality, because we can't. You can't say because they went to the most expensive emergency room that they received the best care. Again, if anything, it's the opposite. And so what we did was we scrubbed the data to make it more representative of the marketplace. And so we used the 90th percentile, not the max cost. We didn't use the lowest cost emergency room visit, we used the 10th percentile. And so what this column is suggesting in the red, if all 25,000 visits to the emergency room went to that 90th percentile, it would have cost our captive members about $88.5 million. Had all of our members who visited the emergency room went to the 10th percentile emergency room, it would have cost $2.4 million. You're looking at an $80-something million variance on emergency room visits alone. This is why people get extremely frustrated, is that there is no guidance, there's no steerage. It's a very opaque environment where you don't find out how much things cost until the EOB comes months later. And so if we're going to help you, an employer, tackle this, we need to really take a second look at that Measles Slide. What we need to do is provide, through our consultant partners like Katz, Pierz, meaningful cost containment initiatives that are going to optimize your populations, that are going to steer people to high quality, high valued facilities, meaning high value, low cost. And you're always going to have people on your plan that say, don't big brother me. And that is absolutely fine. But providing or getting transparency through a transparency tool versus relying on a hospital-owned primary care doc, or worse yet, relying on where your neighbor got their knee replacement done as a referral, there's tools, resources out there in today's healthcare marketplace that we can tap into together as a community to provide a better experience for your members. So when I say the word cost containment, a lot of times it's met with a negative connotation. And I'm telling you, or I hope that you leave this presentation knowing that it couldn't be further from that. We are setting up pathways so that your employees can arrive at better care at a lower price. We embed certain cost containment solutions, not to, again, be big brother, because they're meaningful and strategic to you, and they provide better health care to your plan participants. Stop watering down your plan. Let's give them the same opportunities that a Fortune 100 company provides their plan participants. And so we do have answers for RX. We do have answers for high utilizers, whether it's Medicare or COBRA participants. We do have programs that help make sure that your cancer claimants staging and diagnosis is accurate. 40% of the staging and diagnosis of cancer claimants is wrong. So let's give them a second opinion program that makes sure that it's right out of the gates. And so this is what the program, what Pareto will continue to do through our partners like Katz, Pierz. And as we continue to do this together, meaning build in meaningful cost containment initiatives, the program is going to save our employers, our members, money. And as we save our employers money, more people are going to be attracted to this program. And the more people that come into the program, the more we embed from a cost containment standpoint, so there's more savings opportunities. And so rather than doing a vicious cycle, what we have turned this into with the help of our consultant partners, like the team at Katz Pierz, is a virtuous cycle. And that's why you have seen the rapid growth with this risk financing vehicle. And I hope that makes sense. I'm going to pause there. Shay, invite you back in. Maybe there's something that you want me to go over that I skipped over, glossed over, or maybe we can open up through the chat function some Q&A, wherever you would want to go. Just in cognizant of time, I want you to bring you back in.
Yeah, hey, first of all, I wanted to jump in 1,000 times we were there. That was so well done, Justin. Great job. We find ourselves literally screaming from the rooftops for people to listen to us. You mentioned that the Pareto with all those renewals has a 97% retention rate. For 8 years now, we've been, as you know, been bringing our clients and prospects into the captive. We're at 100%. 100% of our groups that have come in have stayed with Pareto captive. For us to be able to turn around and say that that for 8 years they've been with the same carrier, I will say, if not all, the majority of them have kept the same level of benefits, maybe even improved upon the benefits, haven't changed contributions. That is completely unheard of. And what ParetoHealth has done is they built the roadmap. They've done the hard work. They've vetted out the administrators, the pharmacy benefit managers, and they've provided us placemats where here, us at Katz Pierz, we've built a whole team around this. We believe in this so much as a solution that we've built a team to be able to plug and play, to be able to say, okay, are you guys ready to be able to take control of your health care? We're able to do it with the help of what ParetoHealth has designed in a placemat based on our team ready to go and do on this. It is just the absolute best way to buy it. And when we say not all captives are alike, they're not. There's no other captive that I know that's out there that says, look, we're not going to laser your program. We're going to cap it at 30%. I told you I've been doing this for 30 years. I go out and I do self-insured every day, stop loss for all of our other higher clients. And I can tell you right now, the best contract out there, period, hands down, is within the captive. And that's all we're saying is like, look, we can get you into a vehicle that takes away that volatility, that allows you to maintain your current coverage for a longer period of time and really get a hold of all of your cost through all the tools that are provided to us. So, Justin, I know you're still a part of it. We've talked about next steps. What we see is really common. That happens is actually a lot of employers wait till the renewal. They wait till that 90th day and they're under their gun. They're panicked. They're like, okay, we have to act really quick. Well, there's an education process that we want to walk you through. We do not want to cram a square peg in a round hole. We want to be able to really explain and teach you how this works. It is plug and play, but we're going to need more of that time. So we're asking everybody that's listening not to wait till they're under the gun with a renewal and they're forced to make a decision, but engage us now. Let us start looking at the data. Let us giving you an idea if you are a good captive member and it would make sense for you. And let us start that now so we're not pressured last minute to do that. And with that and being mindful of everyone's time, I'm going to throw it out where, if there are questions and answers, either Justin or myself can answer, please, let us know whether it's now on the call or whether it is in an email to us afterwards. But I hope that the enthusiasm, both through what Justin said, as well as Katz Pierz and what I'm saying is coming through, that get off that cycle. Don't just wait for your renewal and then reacting on it. Allow us to be able to come in and show you the best way, the best solution, the best contract, the best analytics, the best cost containment way for you to be able to take control of your healthcare plan and move forward. So thank you everybody for your time. And with that said, I'll open it up. Grace, do they have ability to ask questions or does that come through chat?
They do. We do have a couple questions here. So first of all, thank you both for that very insightful presentation. And to kick off the Q&A, Justin, you shared some really telling statistics about what rising healthcare costs do to households in this country. So that ties in perfectly to our first question: how will moving to ParetoHealth be different for my employees and their families?
So it's a great question, and I appreciate it. So it is different, and why it becomes different is that your plan doc will start to be enhanced. Your plan document, and while saving money, you know, if you look and ask the Katz Pierz team about the folks that they have in the program and what has happened to their benefits spend, willing to wager, in, you know, dangerous area, you know, never ask a question without knowing the answer, but I'd be willing to say that the majority of them are saving a lot of money versus what their fully insured spend was years ago. Shay, you can say thumbs up, thumbs down.
We had a fully insured client, several hundred lives, that for 20 years. So it's a pretty good track record of the renewals back and forth and deviating benefits. They were one of your first captive members, and we moved over. So we're able to track their actual savings by saying, had you remained fully insured based off our 20 years experience without, in fact, this group enhanced their benefits. They did not deviate, they enhanced it. And we've saved them millions and millions of dollars. So obviously we don't have every group fully insured for 20 years, but that's a great example of us having a 20-year track record, fully insured, moving them into the cap year. 8 years later, we're still tracking them where they're saving a lot. So
the second half of that question is, you know, so employee facing things, like what will they see? And they'll see vendor partners, cost containment solutions that are going to help them. I mentioned that one, cancer care through Interlink, which is a program that truly saves lives. There's no cancer claimant that wouldn't benefit from a second opinion on pathology to make sure that it's right out of the gates. But we just recently added a new vendor called ParetoHealth, and just bear with me for a second. These folks are experts in premature babies. If you look at the cost of a premature baby, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's a vulnerable patient. And of course, you're going to spend whatever it takes to get that baby out of the hospital happy, healthy, et cetera. ParetoHealth are experts. 125 NICU trained RNs that are making sure that the baby's getting the appropriate care, mom's getting the appropriate care, not just within the NICU, but when they go home. They follow the baby for a year to make sure that the parents have everything that they need at home from a case management standpoint, whether it is food insecurity, Wi-Fi, so that they can help engage to make sure that the baby has the best chance to not be readmitted. 50% drop in readmissions by engaging in ParetoHealth. It's really corny, but there's a quote that I love as a father. My mother, so my daughter's grandmother, when she was born, looked at me and laughed and said, "Babies don't come with manuals. There's no instructions here. Have at it." And so why this quote spoke to me was, it was a mom who said that her mom had said the same thing, that babies don't come with instructions, but she said, "But mine did. Thank you, Progeny." That is just one vendor solution that we bring to the table that is up to you to use from a culture standpoint when you're ready for it. Crawl, walk, run. The reason why Katz Pierz does a great job is that sometimes, especially when you have two enthusiastic people like Shay and I talking about this, man, it's like drinking through a fire hose. Rely in the expertise that Katz Pierz brings to the table. Year one, just become comfortable with the captive and follow their advice on some low-hanging fruit from an RX standpoint. You come to a members meeting or two, you see the other members, they'll share some advice with you, they'll show where they stubbed their toe, so then you start to walk. And then year three, you're gonna sprint. You're gonna be out there leading the pack. And I say that because all of that cost containment has meaningful ways to enhance your plan design, which your employees will absolutely face. I spent a ton of time on that first question, Grace. I apologize, but
no, I could go on with cancer care where we've had great things, but that's an option to do it to help people out, get second surgical opinions. The employees of the captive groups that we have in here absolutely love the plans. They haven't changed. Benefits have stayed the same. They've gotten better. Contributions have been rising. So the perspective from the employees that are in the captive members are absolutely outstanding. Sorry, Grace.
No, don't apologize. Those were great answers. And Justin, I think you made a great point bringing up the fact that this is a multi-year strategy. So year one, you might not take advantage of all of those programs, but there are people like our team at Katz Pierz to assist employers with that integration process. And so this next employer's question is, why is the size of ParetoHealth important to me?
Yep. So when you're looking at a captive to join, there's one of the first questions you should ask is, how big is the program? You know, when I talk about that gene therapy drug that hit the captive, it was $2.1 million. Did it sting? Yeah, of course it stings, but we have $550 million under our umbrella. And so it's a small little ripple. If you join a program without size and scale, that $2.1 million, which you're sharing risk on, could absolutely devastate that captive. And so if you're investigating captive programs, and I appreciate the question from the employer, make sure you're asking the size and scale of the program, because it's probably one of the biggest things to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and our next question is, how will the captive control my plan design, or will the captive control my plan design?
We don't have any two captive members that have the same plan design. When self-insured and governed by ERISA, it's up to Shay and his team to help you craft it based upon your desires and the trends that you see. Shay, go ahead.
Yeah, what we do is we really look at the current plan design you have, whether you're level funded, fully insured or not, and try to mimic that coming in, so there's no disruption and there's consistency. And then from there, with getting all the analytics, if there's something that reaches out to us by saying, hey, we should lower your copay to incentivize primary care visits or so on, we have that ability to do so. But we really, they do, as Justin just mentioned, they don't design it. We do, along with our employer groups, and we usually try to keep the consistency of that plan first year, very similar to where they're coming from.
Great. And our last question today is, I have union employees. Will ParetoHealth force me to implement cost-saving programs that the union might not like?
Justin, I'm going to jump in on this because I have some union groups here. So they're collective bargaining, and we have some union groups that jumped in and they can't do anything. So we have all these cost containment strategies, which is great, is they've really helped us for the collective bargaining to put together those analytics, and it becomes a great trade thing. So we have union groups in that didn't do anything for the first couple of years. We were able to gather that data to help them negotiate and make the most sense of any plan change or recommendations, and they were able to implement some of those on the next union contract. So no, you're not forced to do so. Two, we actually prepare you to, when that contract comes up, to be absolutely geared to negotiate favorably for that employer.
Well, that was our final question, and we do have a couple more minutes until 2 p.m. when we wrap this up. So Shay and Justin, I'm not sure if there's anything else that you'd like to add. You've already shared a lot of good information to take away and digest, but that is all we have for the Q&A section.
Justin, it's a record for you and I that we ended with 2 minutes to spare. It's never happened. Either we're talking that fast, or
I was just thinking the same thing. It's a small miracle, Shay. Great job.
Yeah. So again, I'll just end it with, don't wait till you're under the gun. Engage us now. Feel free to ask as many questions after this webinar to us, and we'll be happy to answer them all. But I'll end it with, again, we're screaming from the rooftops as this is the best way to buy healthcare in the future, and I will challenge anybody who says differently. The proof is in the pudding for our clients that we've had in for 8 years and growing, and we couldn't be more excited to be partnered with ParetoHealth and be a part of their success and their growth, and how fast they've just overtaken the country as the largest healthcare captive out there, period. And the proof is in the pudding. They've been able to work on behalf of the employers to put their best foot forward and put them in the best program. So again, Justin, thank you for your time out of today. Thank you for all of our guests that joined us today. We're open to any emails you want to send in, and we really appreciate you taking an hour out of your day. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.